We are live talking Iowa Hawkeyes football on the Ourlads Football Network here on the Ourlads Football YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. And if we're talking Iowa football, that means it's time to bring back Tom Kakert of HawkeyeReport.com now on 3. So I got to figure out a way to say on 3. I'll figure that out. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Yeah, Greg, good to see you.
Yes, likewise. Wow, what a year for Iowa last year. Not the results were there on the field. There's no doubt about that. Just shows you what an incredible coach Kirk Ferentz is. But the injuries, had you ever seen anything like it?
It's the strangest year of football I've covered in 20 plus years of doing this. Just because the offense was so bad. You had all the stuff swirling around. Brian Ferentz essentially being fired at the end of October, the head coach's son, and he coaches out the rest of the season. And they still win the Big Ten West, the final Big Ten West champion, the University of Iowa.
That's right.
And then they go to the Big Ten title game and the bowl game, and they don't score a point in either game. So it was a weird year for sure.
And now, as you just mentioned, there is a new offensive coordinator. So that's Tim Lester.
Yep.
So how's that working out so far?
We got to see that offense a little bit on Saturday. They had an open practice, so we were able to attend and watch them practice. There's a whole lot more motion pre-snap. It is very much a Shanahan-like offense. So there's a lot of pre-snap motion, tight ends moving around, H-back kind of things, wide receivers on the move. There's a lot of the pre-snap stuff. I thought it was interesting that Tim said you don't see this offense in college very much, which is odd because the Shanahan offense is all the rage in the NFL. Everybody's running it, but nobody runs it in college. So, but everybody's running spread in college. So that's just how it is.
Well, we'll see if they could take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, considering how banged up the team was last year, so far so good injury-wise.
Yeah, they got a couple guys that are just kind of nagging stuff, soft tissue stuff that I think will be fine moving down the road. But it's just, one of the things coming out of practice was Cade McNamara, who's listed as a starter, didn't perform well. He was, I hate using the word bad. He just was inaccurate. He was 8 of 26 on his throws for about 20 yards. So it was just not what you were hoping for from a new offense. His backup is Brendan Sullivan, who was at Northwestern, actually played against Iowa last year in the game at Wrigley Field and lost to Iowa and didn't throw very much. I think he threw for like 81 yards in that game. So he didn't throw for a whole lot, and he didn't throw for a whole lot on Saturday either. So it wasn't like one of the quarterbacks was great and the other one was bad. It was like both of them were just kind of, just kind of uninspiring would be the right word maybe for the past game. But, I was just doing a podcast with Chuck Long, former Iowa quarterback from back in the day and offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. He knows his football, and we were talking about things, and there's some rust there. I mean, Cade's coming off an ACL. He hadn't been facing a pass rush until camp started a week ago. Sullivan just came in like June, so he's adjusting.
Okay.
Learning the offense. So they're like a week in with live action, learning an offense and getting really under the hood with an offense. So I'm not ready to push a panic button yet with them because I think eventually they'll figure something out. But I think fans kind of came in to Saturday thinking, boy, it'd be great to see this offense flying up and down the field. And by the way, Iowa's got a pretty good defense too.
Yeah.
With 9 starters back from a team that that was one of the best in the country last year, led by All-American Jay Higgins, All-American Sebastian Castro. Xavier Wampa was out, but they've still got a lot of talent back there. Quinn Schulte, Nick Jackson, Wyatt Black up front. I mean, they've got a lot of talent. So they just didn't they didn't inspire a lot of confidence. I think every Iowa fan just wanted to, boy, let's just see them score some points. But these kids' days, and I've been to a lot of them, been to 20 plus of them, and I can think of maybe once where they looked halfway competent on offense, and probably the worst that I've ever seen the Iowa offense look on Kids Day open practice was 2015, and that team went out and went 12-0. So just, 2004, they won a share of a Big Ten title, and they were awful that day.
Yeah.
For Kids Day, so for the open practice. So just
relax. It's early.
It's early.
Yes.
It's early. Yeah.
That's what they're for. That's what practice is for.
You're talking about practice, right, Alan Iverson?
That's what we are. But that's how you get better, especially at the collegiate level. No question about it. And like you said, they have to go up against that defense and practice every day. And that can only make them better. Because they're going to say to themselves, well, when we go out there and play, whoever we play, it's going to be easier. So that'll be a good thing for them. All right.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and pop up the current depth chart that we have at Ourlads. And I know college is difficult, so I'm sure we probably have some outdated depth chart errors here. But let's start with that vaunted offense, why don't we?
Sure.
And so you mentioned Sullivan. Now, so I'm assuming Sullivan's the number 2 guy, right?
Yes. Yeah, he has moved up to the number 2 position. They just started him at like 3rd on that initial depth chart because he didn't practice in the spring. He wasn't with the team. So, it's just kind of hard to throw him in there and be in the second string quarterback ahead of Marco Lainez, but he is clearly the number 2 guy.
Does the program have like a young quarterback, whether it's Lainez or someone else that is waiting in the wings that 2 or 3 years from now is going to be the man?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't think Sullivan will, like next year when McNamara's gone, it'll either be Sullivan will be the guy, or they're going to have to go Portland probably for their quarterback. Although Lainez may end up making a leap, but right now, I don't know.
Okay. That backfield, though, looks pretty good. That running backs, that 2, especially, of course, those top 2 kids, LaShawn Williams and Caleb Johnson. Is it going to be, you think it'll be equally split?
I think it's going to be a 3-man rotation.
3-man.
LaShawn was not out there on Saturday. He had a soft tissue injury, which generally when a soft tissue injury is mentioned, it's either a quad or hamstring strain of some sort. I'll tell you what, Caleb Johnson looked terrific. They're super high on Kamari Moulton as a running back, and I think he might be poised for a big season. They just really like the way he's playing. But if Caleb Johnson can put it together, I mean, he is 6'1". He's long strider, but boy, he can fly. Physical, tough. I mean, he's got a chance if he put it all together to be an NFL running back. Yeah. Just with his size and speed.
Yep.
But it's about putting it all together, and we'll see if he can do that this year.
And of course, you cannot talk Iowa football without looking at the tight end position.
Can't do it.
Can't. It's impossible. So how good is that position right now? Not just the number 1 guy, but overall, how good is this position this season?
I think their top 2 are potential all Big Ten level kind of players.
Okay.
Luke Lachey, you might remember, 3rd game of the year, he broke his ankle, and it was pretty gruesome injury. And he gave some thought to coming back to the bowl game, but didn't do it, and gave some thought to the NFL, but didn't do it because he felt like he wasn't going to be fully up to speed. And he admitted to me this spring that after spring ball, that he wasn't playing up to his normal level. He was slowed. I mean, it was a significant broken ankle.
Okay.
And not that any other broken ankle isn't significant, but it was a bad one. And said sometime in June, it just sort of started to click for him, where he felt like he was himself again. And he's, he could be one of the best tight ends in the country this year and be a potential, I'm going to say first round pick, because I don't think he has the speed. It's not like he's Brock Bowers or somebody like that, or, just somebody he's not Hawkinson. He's not that level.
Okay.
Or even Sam Laporta.
Okay.
But he's good. He could be a second round, third round pick, I think. National Stringa could be as well. He had 31 catches last year. Really good player. And I think he's got a pro future down the road.
And how about, I would normally think an Iowa tight end knows how to block.
Yeah, they're both good blockers. They're both really good blockers.
Yeah.
Neither came in as great blockers, but they learned to block.
You better.
You learn to block or you don't play.
That's it. I'd hear at least. Okay, wide receiver. Now, this has been an issue for sure.
Yeah.
For some time.
Yep.
Is it any different this year?
It's I don't know. If you ask me, well, Tom, who's going to be the best guy in this group? I could give you probably 5 different guys, and I might end up being right, and I might be wrong after 5. Caleb Brown's the most talented. He's not very big, but he's just got tremendous hands, makes plays, kind of sudden in his movement, but not a blazing speed, but just finds a way to get open. I really liked what I saw from Terrell Washington Jr., who's listed at his backup. He is really talented, sudden, makes people miss. He's also a running back too. Came in and played running back last year, so he may play both positions this year. Seth Anderson was out. He seems to be perpetually out with like soft tissue issues. But they really like Caden Witchen, the backup at that position, because he just seems to run the routes, catches everything, just a solid player. And then Jared Bowie, a lot of the coaches, I know the coaches are really high on him as a playmaker. And Dayton Howard might be he's tall, he's 6'5", but he may be one of the guys to watch. He's really impressed people so far this fall. So
even though you're not sure who could be the number one guy, who knows, by midseason even, but fact is, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it sounds like there's some options there. You just don't know whether or not 2 or 3 guys are going to blossom and step out and make their mark or not. But it's there. It's possible.
Yep. There's just a lot of unproven guys. I mean, like Caleb Brown didn't catch a pass until November last year, and he was a kid who transferred in from Ohio State.
Yeah.
With a lot of accolades and a lot of hype. And he didn't do a whole lot for most of the year. And then he ended up catching, I think, 22 passes the last, month of the season. So shows some promise. So we'll see if he can continue to build on that.
All right. So right now that's so Washington, Bowie, Anderson, and Wetchen. Those are the ones to keep an eye on. Of course, if Brown is not the number one guy, but it looks like he should be. And he's going to be out the first game?
Yeah, he will be out for the first game.
Okay. And that one's against FCS Illinois State. So yes. It could have been South Dakota State. I was interviewing Scott Wright of Oklahoma State a few days ago, and I couldn't believe their September schedule is just a monster schedule, and they got to start the season with South Dakota State. And it's like, yeah, well, they scheduled that game about 6 years ago. Didn't think South Dakota State would be coming in as back-to-back FCS champions. So at least Iowa didn't have that kind of bad luck Illinois State instead of South Dakota State, but that's the way it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Iowa, hey, here's a good fun fact for you. Iowa is the last team to beat South Dakota State.
Oh, okay. I like that one. That was first game of the season. Look at that, 7-3.
7-3, and it was all a 7-3. It was instant classic.
See, there you go.
Put coffee to sleep.
Matter of fact, it looks like the last couple of years, the opening game, non-conference game, has been a little bit, tougher than you would have hoped for. But even last year, it wasn't like they weren't going to beat Utah State, but it wasn't exactly a blowout. But then again, not many games for Iowa last year were blowouts. So
no,
that's just the way it went. Okay, offensive line. This is another position that you must talk about when talking Iowa football. Is Logan Jones the top offensive lineman to watch?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. This is a group that was beat up last year, and that's why part of why the offense struggled so much was Logan Jones was hurt with a lower leg injury. Jennings Dunker had shoulder surgery after the season, so he was dealing with an issue most of the year. Bo Stevens, who's listed as a starter this year, he was out early and out late with knee issues. Mason Richmond, the second half of the year, was dealing with some sort of leg issue, and he was moving like me, and that's not good when you move like me. So that's 4 of their 5 starters were dealing with some significant issues. So that right now, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever you do, they'll stay healthy. If they do, it'll be like I saw on Saturday, where they provided some pretty good protection, and they got some push up front on the run game that allowed Caleb Johnson and Kamari Moulton and Terrell Washington Jr. and Xavier Williams and some other guys the ability to run the ball pretty well.
All right, let's switch on over to defense. And this is going to be one of the best defenses in all of college football.
I think so.
Yep.
I think I'd put that back 7 with Higgins, Jackson, Castro, Nestor, Wampa, Harris, Schulte. I'd put that up against anybody in the country.
Absolutely.
And there's some darn good players in that group. And I'll tell you, the guy to watch out of that group that's probably not gotten any pub because he's just a sophomore who played primarily on special teams, but John Nestor, I mean, that kid, he flies around, makes plays, coaches kid, really better athlete than you think he is. And boy, he's tough. And they had him and Castro on the same side of the field, and good luck to any team that tries to go to that side, because those guys just come downhill as hard as they can and just look to punish people.
Yeah, I mean, if Nestor's going to be another in the lines of the superior defensive backs we've seen from Iowa lately, wow. That's all you can say about that secondary. So I might as well start there. So Nestor, and because I am going to ask you, and I think Nestor's definitely going to be in the running for the pick, is give me like one pick on offense and defense as far as that breakout candidate. Maybe a player that hasn't really done it yet, underclassman, even that kind of thing. So yeah, talk about this the secondary in general, because you named them all, but I believe Castro, Wampa, and Schulte, those are the 3 headliners, you could say. So how good is Castro? How good is he?
But the second half of last year, he just freed up and just played so fast, and it was frightening. I mean, it was. I said something to Phil Parker one time that he started to remind me of Bob Sanders. And I don't say that lightly, because Bob Sanders is the best player I've seen in the Ferentz era, the most impactful player. And Castro was just wrecking people. And, there's that GIF, or there's a little clip of him just manhandling like a Nebraska tight end or something, just throwing him with his free arm and just tossing him aside like a rag doll. He's so good. Just coming downhill, playing with so much confidence and comfort. Wampa is the guy to watch because he was the 5-star coming out of high school, and he's played okay.
Okay.
But it feels like this is the breakout year. And I'll tell you the other thing, the guy that Higgins and Jackson all say is the key to everything is Quinn Schulte, because he makes sure everybody's in the right spot. He makes sure the calls are right. He makes sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do. He's like a coach on the field, and he's just never out of position. He's always going to make the right play. He's always going to make the tackle. He is steady Eddie, and just captains that ship on the back end. But Higgins is such an interesting guy, because I'll tell you, I had to look it up, the PFF numbers last year as I was doing my preseason stuff. And it just, every time I look at it, it stuns me. The Iowa defense played 999 snaps last year. It's incredible. And I bet Higgins played like 950 of them.
985.
999.
So that's only 14 he missed.
Yeah. It's crazy amount of snaps that he played. And he had 171 tackles, which tied the school record. I didn't know what to expect of him. He had huge shoes to fill last year with Jack Campbell moving on. And he came in, and boy, was he good. He was so much better than I thought he would be. A decent player, solid player. And he was so much more than that. And the key to Iowa this year was Higgins could have been gone. That Jackson, COVID year. Castro using the COVID year. Schulte using the COVID year. Jamari Harris using the COVID year. That whole back end looks different if they don't have that COVID year and they don't come back.
Yeah.
And they got Wyatt Black to come back. He could have gone pro potentially. So it was just, they kept everybody, and all those guys wanted to stay. And I'll tell you, Higgins was kind of the ringleader for all of it.
Well, look at that. Grad,
yeah.
senior, yeah. Grad, senior. That's
veteran. It's a veteran group. The big question mark for the defense is the depth up front.
Okay.
The 4 guys that are listed as starters have played a significant amount of snaps, and I think are pretty solid. Pass rush is a question mark, I think. But beyond that 4, and to play college football today, I think you need 7, 8 guys probably.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they have a backup tackle that they feel completely comfortable and sold on, but Jeremiah Pittman and Jeff Bowie are going to have a shot. Bowie would be a great story because he's just battled a ton of injuries, never played a snap yet, and he's finally healthy. Local kid from just down the road in West Branch, Iowa, boyhood home of Herbert Hoover. I hope he has a good year. And Pittman looks the part. He just struggled last year when he got a chance. He just kind of had a tougher time with the leverage side of things.
Okay.
I think they've got 2 or 3 guys at defensive end that are intriguing and could be good. Brian Allen looks the part. He looks like a NFL defensive end. He's built, he's strong, he's physical, he's fast. It's just the consistency. Max Llewellyn, I think he's got a chance maybe to lead him in sacks this year. He really, I thought, came on last year. And Kenneth Merriweather might be a year away, but he's started to fill out as a redshirt freshman, and I think he's got a shot to be pretty decent, moving forward.
But there are a lot. Bottom line is there are a lot of questions as far as
there's a lot of questions with the depth, and I just go back to like 2010 when they had like Adrian Claiborne and Robert Binns and Mike Daniels and some of these guys. They had like 4 or 5 really good guys to play defensive line, but they were just playing those guys basically the whole game. And I'll never forget they lost at Northwestern in 2010, and Dan Persa running around, and Adrian Claiborne, who was a first round draft pick, just completely out of gas trying to chase him around in the backfield, and Persa throwing for a touchdown late in the game to beat him. And it was just, it's just, you got to have depth or you're going to get caught eventually, and that's going to be the key. They got to develop some depth.
Yeah, and no team has experienced the need for depth like Iowa did last year. So they know. They definitely know.
Yeah, they know. Absolutely.
By the way, how do you compare, say, Jack Campbell to Higgins?
Campbell's just so unique because he's bigger, rangier. Higgins is classic box linebacker, where Campbell can play outside if you needed him to. He can go sideline to sideline quicker.
Okay.
So, it's. But I think Jay's gonna, he'll be on an NFL roster.
Oh yeah,
sure. A year from now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be it might be the third day before he goes off the board, but I think
maybe like a J.D. Bertrand type.
Yeah.
Like from Notre Dame, one of those guys.
Yeah.
Not be fast, doesn't have that type of speed, but hey, he'll be wanted. He'll do the things you want him to do, as you ask him to do at the next level. Yeah. NFL likes those guys.
And he's, he'd be a guy that you could run out there, core special teams guy that's going to help you there. And great leader, though. Great leader. Both can't. That's, one thing I can say about Jack and about Jay. They're different kinds of leaders, but they're great leaders. Just excellent leaders.
Okay, so overall, give me a breakout player, and you can give me a couple, and then maybe your number one guy on defense.
Breakout player is probably I have to go with Nestor. I've been accused of having a little bit of a man crush on John, but it's well deserved. I mean, he is just I think he's going to be a really. I'm not going to say he's Cooper DeJean because Cooper DeJean was freakish in so many ways, and he doesn't have like the return skills or anything. But could he be Riley Moss? Maybe. It's a guy playing in the NFL right now. So
he was a true last year? He's a true sophomore?
Yeah, true sophomore. Yep. You want a guy on offense to watch?
Well, and then you also believe Wampa, even though he's more well-known, of course, but you think there's that next gear that he could take.
Yep. I think he's a guy that he's due. There's so much talent there. Last year, you talked about guys being banged up. He was wearing a cast for like half the year because he broke his thumb and still playing. So, I would say he's a guy to watch.
Yeah, you got to be tough to play for Iowa, that's for sure. Ain't no doubt about it. You ain't going to last there if you're not tough. By the way, what about Black? Tell me a little bit about this.
Black?
Yeah, tell me about him.
The guy who I've compared him to is a guy who played at Iowa years back, Carl Davis. Big, kind of human silo type of player that's just massive, just 6'5", and just a big dude. And his issue early in his career was he just tough time staying healthy all the time. And last year he stayed healthy, and I thought he was terrific. But the thing with Iowa's defensive tackles is the way they play them. They generally don't put up huge numbers. Every once in a while, you'll have a guy like Mitch King or somebody like that puts up huge numbers. But they're there just to eat up people, and then that's kind of their primary purpose, is they're going to take up two people so somebody else can get going. But I could see him having a big year. I mean, I really could. He's super talented.
Who's the top lineman on the team?
Offensive lineman?
Defensive. Is it Craig or is it Black?
Oh, I think it's probably Black.
It's Black. Okay.
Yeah. I think they need more from Deontay this year. And he had like 6.5 sacks 2 years ago, and just last year he never just kind of got going. I think he'll get going this year. But he's a guy that if he wants to play in the NFL, he should have a double-figure sack year this year. Get to 10.5 sacks.
Yeah, when you're running a 4-3, you need that pressure up front, and that's going to be, who's the returning sack leader?
Ooh, it might be Craig.
Okay, what did he have?
They just didn't. Joe Evans was their leading sack guy last year.
Okay,
and he's with the Ravens now, so I have to look that up to see who the returning sack guy is. It was, Wyatt Black had 3.5. Deontay Craig had 3. So I think they're Nick Jackson was actually their leading sack guy with 4.
Oh, okay.
They did, they really struggled getting a pass rush like the first 4 games. I don't think they had a sack in their first 4 games last year.
Wow.
But then Phil Parker dialed up more blitzes after that, and things looked differently.
Yeah, especially when you lose that 4th game the way the team did last year. That was like a boom. Time to do things differently.
Yes.
Okay. Offense. Who's the breakout player?
I'm going to go with Kamari Moulton, running back. Just heard so many good things about him from the coaches that I think he's a guy that's due for that looks like he's going to have a big year.
Okay.
So I would look at Kamari a lot this year.
And what about?
I'd also keep an eye on Washington Jr.
Oh, okay.
He's really explosive.
Okay.
Those two guys, both second-year guys, really talented.
And as far and I was going to ask about that. So Washington being a freshman, even though he's a redshirt freshman.
Yep.
And are there any true freshmen that we may have to keep an eye on that might get some snaps this year, that might be the guys that you're looking down the road and say, this is a guy to watch in a couple of years?
Here's a guy that was running second team actually on Saturday, who was kind of off the radar. A kid named Reese Vanderzee. He is he's a wide receiver from Northwest Iowa. He's a tall kid, like 6'4", but he was running with the second team on Saturday. So Reese Vanderzee might be a guy to watch.
Got it. And that's
good athlete. Bigger kid, good athlete.
Okay. All right. Now, transfers. Did the team lose any transfers that's going to hurt them?
Not really. They didn't really lose anybody in the portal. I think they would have probably liked to see more people go in the portal because they're over, they're having to have their collective pay for a couple guys this year. So because they couldn't get under that number with all the COVID guys coming back.
And do they have a transfer coming in?
Sullivan would probably be the biggest name right now. They've really had to be pretty selective, I think is probably the right word.
And Lester, is he the only major staff change?
Also, John Bondmeyer took over as the wide receivers coach for Kelton Copeland.
Okay.
Bud Meyer's been there for a couple of years in different roles, administrative, air quotes, administrative roles. But yeah, Bud Meyer is the guy, and at wide receiver. But Lester is the only other one. They elevated linebackers coach Seth Wallace to associate head coach. So there were some places north of Iowa that were trying to lure him away. So you give him a new title to give him more money. So that's what happened.
Okay.
So,
and as far as the schedule, this is one of those reasons why, I take a look at how good the defense is. I see that the offense is clearly going to be better as long as they're healthy. Yeah. And then I look at the schedule and I go, whoa, wait a second here. This is looking pretty good. They've got the one really big obstacle at Ohio State on October 5th. And other than that, every opponent they face, these are winnable Iowa football games.
I think if you went to Las Vegas and you asked them for a point spread on every other game except for Ohio State, they would say Iowa is at least a small favorite.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe a little bigger favorite, but small favorite.
Yes.
And you look at the AP poll that came out today, and the only team on there that is ranked on the schedule is Ohio State.
Oh, no. There you go.
So they have, the schedule is not what I would say daunting. There's some challenges in there. And the Nebraska game at the end of the year will be a challenge, but it's at Kinnick. Wisconsin's at Kinnick. UCLA is there, but I don't think UCLA is all that good.
No.
I think they're a little down. That Washington team is replacing basically every starter from last year.
Yep.
So, and they're getting them relatively early. And that's Jed Fish said at Big Ten Media Day, that's an 11 a.m. kick. So that'll be 9 a.m. for Washington. So, that's going to be a welcome to the world kind of thing. And, the Iowa State game will be tough. Cyclones are going to be good this year.
Yes.
Got a lot back. But
Iowa's had their number, haven't they?
Yeah, Matt Campbell's 1-7 against Kirk.
Wow.
Something like that. 1-6, 1-7, something like that. Yeah.
And you get Troy after their head coach left. So Troy's a rebuild.
Yeah. So that schedule is very favorable to Iowa.
What do you think? You're looking at a
I have 10-2 down.
Okay. Lose one game that you're just not expecting, which makes sense. There's always that one game.
There's always that one game where you get caught and you lose it. Like the Minnesota game last year. They should have won that game. They got robbed with Cooper Jean on it.
That infuriated me. I hated that.
It's the worst call in the history of college football.
Oh, disgusted me.
Yeah, maybe not the worst call, but
it's close. It was bad. And I really hate. I mean, obviously, I didn't hate it as much as Iowa fans that DeJean got injured, but because at that point right there, I was all for DeJean being the Heisman leader, and I know they never were going to pick him, even if he would have stayed healthy. But I just thought he was that's quintessential what the Heisman is about in my mind. And I think that they've just decided to give the Heisman every year now to play with the biggest stats on
best
the
quarterback.
big teams. Yeah,
the best quarterback on a team that wins.
Yeah, that's not what the Heisman's about. They've got a Johnny Unitas award.
Yeah, it's a quarterback award now.
Yeah,
although Devontae Smith won it a few years ago, but
he did.
It's more than likely. It's been a while since a running back won it. I know that.
Yeah, and Iowa's sure going to have a good couple of running backs, and including Johnson. Is Johnson would you say that he is the top offensive player to keep an eye on as far as pro potential?
Lachey's probably the top pro potential guy, but I would say Johnson is the guy that could emerge as a pro potential guy. And I'll tell you, Ferentz is super high on Logan Jones being an NFL center. And he was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list too. I think 9th on the freaks list. So he's not Tyler Linderbaum yet, but he's got, potential. I'm not going to say he's a first round pick, but if he went second, third round, it wouldn't shock me if he has a good year. He's got to stay healthy though. He's got to stay healthy.
Well, I think this is looking at things. Obviously, if the team loses 2 games, which is possible, maybe more than likely, it's going to be tough. But I think that puts them right there in the mix as far as getting into the postseason playoff.
If you're a Big Ten team or an SEC team and you're 10-2 that during your regular season, you are in the conversation for the college football playoff, leaning towards being in. Yep. I don't care who you are. That's just the reality that we're going to be living in right now from here on out. Is if you're 10-2 in those power conferences, you're discussed in November on the CFP show every week because you're going to be in that mix.
Yeah, what are there 7 at large basically? So you have 4 from the FBS from the power, 1 from the group, and then the rest at large. Yep. So that's a decent number.
Yeah, and it may be 4 from the SEC and 3 from the Big Ten.
Yeah,
is what it might end up being.
Yeah, could be.
Seriously, I mean, it may end
on
up
a yearly basis. Yep. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think everybody is. I'm not really sure that the media maybe can fully grasp yet what is going to happen when we get there. I just think it's going to be so much bigger than anybody is anticipating. The build up to getting to play playoff games, it's just going to be amazing.
Well, we were talking about that on Saturday when we were at Kinnick, and just imagine Kinnick Stadium in December 20th, and there's a college football playoff game, and it's Ole Miss or somebody
some
like
team
that.
you're not used to playing, or a team you play in a bowl game, a New Year's Day bowl game or something like that, with real stakes. Real stakes.
Or Notre Dame or Iowa Notre Dame, December 20th.
Yes. There you go.
I mean, can you imagine that? It's just be crazy.
Yes.
Crazy to happen.
That's what I've been. I can't even believe because I think about it and I'm like, well, yeah, I knew I'd been waiting for this for a while. And then I realized, man, I have been waiting this for a long time because I am not young anymore. I remember when I was like in my 20s, I was waiting for this, and I realized, man, time just goes so far, so fast. And it's like, damn it. It really did take a long time for them to finally get to this point. But I'm just glad it's there now when I still have my faculties and I'm still kind of into it where I know what's going on and I'm really excited about it. So,
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And Tom, I look forward to getting the opportunity, especially, of course, if Iowa has a really solid year and they're right there in the mix. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk during the season. And do you have you've got your own show, Tom?
Yeah, our podcast, Hawkeye Report podcast. We do it a couple times a week. Also do a podcast during the football season with former Iowa quarterback Chuck Long. So we do that usually Sunday night, Monday, depending on our schedules. And so that's during football where we kind of X and O it a little bit and have some fun with that. So it's a good time, but we also do just regular podcast stuff too during the week.
By the way, I just noticed we do have a question from Eric Stowe.
That's a good question, Eric. And we're about to find out because if the offense goes really well, then you can pin it on Brian.
They're not going to wait to do that either. They'll be pretty.
But if it's a struggle, then you might point it at the head coach. We'll see.
Oh, that's something that I guess they would do it, but if last year did not prove how Kirk Ferentz is not one of the greats, I don't know what else the man can do. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the worst offense that anybody has ever seen from a major program and a major conference. And to get that team to win football games like that is just it's just phenomenal. It just shows you. And I know we didn't talk special teams, but that's just a big part of the program.
Torrey Taylor's punting for the Bears now, and they brought in another Australian import, Reese Dokken, who promptly on his first punt on Saturday bombed a 65-yarder that landed inside the 5-yard line. So I think Iowa's okay.
And that's what you expect. That's what it's about. I mean, I'm a Rutgers fan, so I know Greg Schiano. I know how much special teams means to him. And those two programs, two coaching staffs that put special teams in big time. And they have to, because they're not getting the 5-star guys that Ohio State and Michigan, all those teams again. So they have to find other ways to manufacture points in field position. So
absolutely true.
Tom, great job as always. I appreciate it. Thanks for educating me for the upcoming season on Iowa. And again, I look forward to talking to you later on this season.
Thanks for having me on, Greg.